Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Hoping that you all had a great weekend. I want to say an uneventful weekend, unless you like eventful weekends. But whatever you had, I hope that it was one that you took advantage of, that you took advantage of the days, the moments, the hours that we had. Because right now, what we're going to look at today, first, I want to encourage all of you, no matter what your week was like last week, we are in a place right now where we can change our future. We all have the power to do sort of like Doctor Strange, right? Where we can come in and change our future by doing the right things today. So we're going to continue looking at some of the things. The first one we're going to look at is going to be sales success. Now, I don't know if you all have jumped in to the book, if you found it. I think it's a great reminder. Once again, Brian Tracy, they're not giving me any of the proceeds. I'm not getting anything from the book, but I find myself going back to this book over and over. We're not going to spend much time here. We're going to look at some clients' dialogues a little bit later. Going to ask, today's going to be really about a lot of questions, asking questions about yourself, your business, your goals. What do you want to do? And remember, all of this stuff we've heard before. So I'm not going to teach you anything. We're just going to be reminded, because I love talking to Cheryl and she's like, yeah, Neil, we know. And then I'm like, Cheryl, is it not resonating? She's like, no, we know. Like, we know the conviction is that we just have to do. And so DeAndre and I were just having this conversation before we got started. And so we're going to go to chapter 16 through 21 of Sales Success. But the first thing is handle objections effectively. How good are you at handling objections? Have you gone through, and we'll talk about this a little more in the client dialogues, but have you gone through and do you know what objections there are to your services right now, to the market right now? Hopefully you've thought about what people are going to say. So here's a question that it all goes back to. The key question in answering objections is, why don't our prospects use our services? Why are our clients, our prospects, or the people that we want to do business with, why are they using other services? That's what it all comes down to. That's where we have to get to handling objections. Is it because the perception is you're too expensive, that you're not knowledgeable enough? Is that there's a better option? Why aren't more people buying and selling with us? If we can answer those questions, if we can have, that is the bottom line objection. That's the foundation. Why aren't people working with you? Is it because they don't think you know enough? Is it because their family member or a friend is the trusted advisor or just familiar, right? So why aren't people using us? Many salespeople become discouraged and disheartened when the customer begins to object to their offering or asking questions. So Brian Tracy, I believe that when people start asking you questions or laying out objections, at least they're giving you a road map. The worst thing that we can do at the end of our consultation, because we don't give presentations anymore, right? The worst thing we can do at the end of our consultation is say, do you have any questions? And there are no questions. And then we say, are you ready to sign? And they say, I'm going to think about it. What does that mean? They said that means they have unspoken objections. An unspoken objection is a killer to our business. It is a killer to our opportunities. So one of the things that Brian Tracy encouraged us to do is make it easy to object. Make it easy. So we want to ask questions as we're going through. We want people, if they have any objections, we want them to come in and say, hey, yeah, that part I don't like, I don't agree, I don't understand, or here's what I heard, and be okay with it, right? Live in the uncomfortable space of, oh, you think that there's a better option? Well, why do you think that? There are some great questions. For instance, when we talk about price, like now we're not going to get into any antitrust stuff here. Not going to happen. But one of the things that we often hear is your price is too high. Here are some questions that we could ask. Why do you say that? What makes you feel that way? Is price your only concern? And how far apart are we? Right? And that's just on price. So when people start talking about the market, have you considered what your responses would be to any objections. Have you planned it out? Hopefully, and we'll talk about this when we start talking about client dialogues. Hopefully, the first time you think about the objection is not when you're hearing the objection. When was the last time you practiced your objection handling? When was the last time you thought about the response of, well, I heard it's a bad time to buy. Interest rates are going up. There's no inventory. Sure, I want to sell, but I have no place to go. Or if they say, well, I don't think now is the time for me to purchase because I'm having to put more money down. Do you know, have you practiced what those responses to the objectives are? And chapter 17 is ask the customer to take action. Here's what I know about each and every one of us on this call, watching this video right now, is that we are better than our actions show. And here's why I say that. How many times have you gone through your consultation? Have you met with your client that you've sent them property offerings and you did not ask them to take the next step? We just assume that people know what we do, how we get paid, how we provide for our families, how we fund this dream life that we have. And we never ask them, after showing them 15, 20 properties, after offering or submitting, presenting 4 or 5 offers, we don't say, make a decision. Which one of these are we going to choose? Do you like this home enough to submit an offer on? Many times, more times than not. Now, I'm going to make a statement. This is not meant to be harsh. It's a reality. Most people that we deal with in a client-customer basis are sheep looking for a shepherd. They want to be told, pushed, encouraged to do what we think and what they think is in their best interest. If left to making a decision themselves, most people will not decide unless they are encouraged. So how good are you at asking the customer to take action? Having your pen and say, all right, are you ready to sign here? Or let's sign here. Which of these 3 homes do you like enough to submit an offer on? Right? Any of that, and offer some great closes in here. The preference close, the invitational close, the directive, authorization, secondary close, any of those. So the techniques aren't important because we can learn the techniques. What we need to identify is how many times are we leaving that ask on the table? Are you good at asking? Are you good at pushing? Are you good at verbalizing what your expectation is to the prospect, customer, or client? If not, then that's where we need to turn up the dial just a bit. Now, here's one that I absolutely love that I'm always working to improve upon. Provide excellent customer service. How good is your customer service? Now, I'm talking to Neil right now, and you all just happen to be listening in. When I say provide excellent customer service and I ask you how good is your customer service, you can't answer that. Your customers have to tell you how good your customer service is. What would they say about your customer service? Would they say that you're prompt in responding? Now, that doesn't mean that you have to answer every phone call every time that your phone rings. But what it does mean is, do you have a quality standard that you meet or exceed every single time? If not, we are falling short. So Brian Tracy, he gives 4 levels of service in the book. I do not agree with the 4 levels of service simply because in the time since this has been written, a different author has come and said there are only 2 levels of service. You either exceed the expectations of your customer or client, or you fail their expectations. Do you exceed the expectations or do you fall short? There is no such thing. There is no such thing as meeting the expectations of our clientele. That's what I believe. He says, because even if you deliver what you promised in today's society, that is not enough. How can you exceed the expectations so you can create raving fans? That's one of the reasons why I am a student of Brian Buffini. They're always talking about exceed the expectations, because if you just meet and someone else does one thing, not even better, but different, now you've got my attention as a client or customer. Now I say, well, yeah, my expectations are met, but maybe that is the better option. Maybe that just because it's something new and shiny. So how do you exceed client expectations? How do you provide a level of service? For those of us here, we're probably really good at our customer service during the sale, during the transaction. The question is, what do you do after the sale? What is your post-close service look like? Do you have something that you send to them? Are they on a consistent marketing campaign? Because here's what Brian Tracy says, and I absolutely love this part. It goes into chapter 19, keep customers for life. And so while the first sale, the first interaction, whether it is from a lead, a referral, the first transaction is the easy. The first one, maybe they don't have another choice. Maybe they got tricked in, just kidding, to working with you. But the second sale is the one we want to focus on. How many second sales do you have in your career? Now, this could be a repeat buyer or seller. It could also be that they thought your service was so amazing that you exceeded their expectations that they told someone else. If you look at your sales history and all you have is first sales, we're going to have to improve upon that after the sale customer service or during the sale customer service, providing that outstanding customer experience. So one of the challenges I'm going to issue to all of us this week, let's go through, let's look at our sales, our lead generation over the past, I'm going to say year, really, especially with the pandemic. Let's look and see, where did our business come from? Do we have any repeat buyers or sellers coming in, or tenants or landlords? Do we have any leads coming to us from someone that we actually closed business with? Can we look at that second sale? Because I don't know if you have experienced this. It talks about the cost of about one commercial lead, one commercial customer right now is about $400, right? To get one person. For that second lead, that second sale, it's about $12, right? So we start to see that just from a business standpoint, from profitability, it makes more financial sense to focus on using and capitalizing, maximizing what we already have, as opposed to always looking for something or someone new. So what percentage of your business would be considered a second sale? Do you know if you're always generating new leads and you're having to pay for leads or working harder to create that one-time, first-time customer? Or is your database, your pipeline full of individuals that would be considered a second sale, word of mouth, if they've come from someone that knows, likes, and trusts you? It talks about word of mouth. Now, here's the ultimate question for us as sales professionals that we must ask. Everything. So everything we talked about, from how we handle objections to coming in, keeping clients for life, negotiating, all of that, it comes down to this. Based on your experience with me, would you recommend me to others? Based on your experience with me, would you recommend me to others? Now, Brian Buffini says, after this experience, would I be the realtor that you use or that you would refer someone to? If the answer is no, we've failed, right? If the answer is, I believe so, we've got to ask where that disconnect is. Chapter 20 is all about managing your time effectively. And all I'm going to ask, or all I'm going to add about managing your time effectively, are you doing the right things the right way? Are you doing those high dollar producing activities, those income producing activities in our industry? Are we negotiating contracts? Are we showing properties? Are we out here prospecting or not? Or are we always working on our advertising and our marketing? Are we getting in front of the customer, client, prospect, our face time with them? Jim Rohn always says, if you want to double your income, double the amount of time you spend in front of the prospect. If you want to double your income, double the number of appointments, the number of consultations that we have. And then just by pure numbers, we'll double our income. That's even if we don't increase or improve upon our skills. So let me ask you, how well are you managing your time or your emotions? What are you going to do after this call this morning? What is it that you're going to say, this is where my attention is going to go on Monday morning? And just so you all know, we're doing some studies. We know based on science and Pew and all of this is that Tuesday is the day for decision making. Tuesday. So if you can avoid having any meetings on Tuesday that aren't with client, customers, prospects, avoid them. If you can avoid taking a training on Tuesday, avoid it. Tuesday is the decision making day. So that's when you want to have your meetings, preferably before 1 p.m., before we start having lunch, before we slow down and going downhill. So hopefully your Tuesday morning, 8:30, 9 o'clock, you might have a coffee, you might have another one. I want you to bust your butt on Tuesday mornings. When you could win your entire week on Tuesday based on the appointments or the phone calls or video chats that you have, if we are intentional about setting up our calendars. And then on Friday, on Thursday evening, you guys can chill. You can work on your social media posting, do your marketing, as we call it, whatever it is, later in the week. But Tuesday is a big day. And then, he talks about the Pareto Principle, the 80-20 rule. Where is your business coming from? Have you identified your 20% of activities, your 20% of people, your 20% of events that you go to? Have you identified? So you don't need a lot of people. The reality is, for us in this room, in this Zoom room right now, if we intentionally get 40 people, 40, that's just what the number is. If we get 40 people, if we find 40 people to champion our cause, we'll have more business than we could ever have. Do you have your 40? What is your 20% of activities and the 20% of your database? If you can find those people, if you find that percentage, then your business will go off the charts. Get better at what you do. That's something in here. One of the most powerful ways to increase your income consistently is to get better at the most important things you do, at prospecting, presenting or consulting, and following up and closing. That's Brian Tracy. This is not a real estate guy. This is just someone who's fantastic and brilliant when it comes to sales. How good are you at prospecting, presenting, and following up and closing? Are you fantastic at it? Now, you can't answer this. Let your account answer this question for you. Because here's what we know. We know the market pays for skill. The market is going to dictate our value. If we are great at it, I just believe the market is always going to have a place for you. And then chapter 21 is all about a little bit of motivation, inspiration. There are no limits. You have the skills and the ability right now to sell and earn twice as much as you are earning today, and probably much, much more. So Brian Tracy, much like myself, I don't know everything about you, but I know for you to be on right here that you have more, that I have more, that we have more skills and ability than we're currently utilizing. And so I would ask us, because there's a statement in here that I'm going to make in a moment, but I'm going to ask us, what one thing that if you did it today, if you implemented, if you started actually doing instead of just being some esoteric idea, what one thing, if you executed today, would make the biggest impact on your business? Is it knowing your market stats and doing videos and sending that out to your database? Is it going to be making the phone calls to your past clients and checking in with them? Is it meeting once or twice a week with different clientele, business leaders, or decision makers in your marketplace? Could it be that you just need to go in and dive in and learn the contract so that you can be more comfortable asking your buyers or sellers to sign? Could it be that you just haven't prospected at all and you're saying, no, I'm marketing, I'm advertising because I put some houses and some showings on social media, right? So what is the one thing today that if you got better at it, your business would show and see positive results? Here's what Brian Tracy tells us to do. Simply put, be the best, right? Are you the best at what you do where you're doing it? Make a decision today to become excellent in the field of selling. Have you made that decision? Have you made the decision and the commitment to be excellent at selling real estate? If not, maybe your decision has been, well, I'm going to give this thing a shot. Well, I'm going to try. Well, my decision this month or this cycle, this season is, well, it's kind of hard. I'm just trying to survive. My question is, why would you not decide to be excellent today in this thing called sales? In this market that we're in, there are colleagues of ours who are killing it, right? And now my question for us is, why is it not you? Why is it not me? Can it be us? Of course it can. The main reason, here we go. The main reason that people don't get into the top 10% in selling is because, here's the drum roll, they never make a decision to do it. Have you made a decision to be in the top 10% of sales? Have you made a decision to be the number one in your office or your brokerage or your association, your region, your neighborhood? Have you made that decision? Or have we decided so far, I just want to make a living? Now, my personal beliefs is I don't think that any of us are here just to exist. I don't think any of us are here to be part of the mediocre many, but I can't decide for you. Today, will you make a decision to be the best at what you do, where you're doing it? Are you willing to decide to be so good that even your competitors have to bow down and say, all hail the queen, all hail the king? If not, then I would challenge you to do some soul searching, because I do know that in our industry, there is no place for those who haven't decided to be the best. Why? Because those are the ones who are going to struggle. Those are going to be the ones who don't deliver outstanding customer service during and after the sale. They're not going to come through and say, I want a customer for life. I'm going to be the best. So that's going to be my challenge. So what is the key skill that you need to learn? And here's the question, or here's a statement that is made in the book. The fact is, you could be only one skill away from doubling your income and becoming one of the highest paid people in your industry. I'm going to tell us what likely, there are two skills that are likely the biggest difference from each of us becoming the highest paid salespeople in our industry. One, the first one is the skill of communication. How skilled are you at communicating? And here's where I'm going to challenge us in a one-to-many situation. How skilled are you? If you will increase and improve upon, intentionally work to become a better communicator in a one-to-many situation, it's very likely that we're going to shoot to the top in our industry. And like what we're doing right now, how comfortable are you doing this? How comfortable are you at a networking event having a room of people with their eyes on you or on a platform? That should be our goal as salespeople. It's not to get the best ad or to have a billboard or a bus bench. How can you spend more time in front of more people? The better you are at communicating, the more impactful you're going to be. You're going to be perceived as an expert, and then that's going to result in more peanuts and pennies in your pocket. That's the first skill. The second skill after communication, I'm going to say, is valuing property. It's not negotiation. How well can you value property? If you can communicate and if you can value property in this industry, you can win. Right now, the marketplace, we saw Zillow, they relied on a computer how to value property, and we see what happened on their real estate sales side, buying property, right? How good can you value property? Do you know? Not that you have to be an appraiser, but in this market right now, do you know where properties are going to sell? Because if you can communicate, get people's attention, and if you can tell them where properties are going to sell or where they have to be to get a property under contract, you're going to win, which is going to result in more people listening to what you have to say. So I believe those are two key skills. And then one of the big ones here is talk or speak positively to yourself. 95% of your emotions are determined by the way you talk to yourself as you go through your day. What have you said about yourself while we've been on this Zoom? What are you telling yourself? I've got some good news and some bad news. You're the only person that you're with all day, every day. So what are you saying to yourself? Are you saying that, yes, I am capable, that I'm well able, that I can be in the top 10%? And when I ask you to make a decision to be the best at what you do, to be in the top 10%, did you say, I want to be in the top 10%? And then did that little voice start saying, no, you can't, right? Talk to yourself, get that positivity in, because you are going to dictate what you tell yourself. You're going to dictate how far you go. Now, before we go on to a second part, here's what I want to ask you. And this is something that my mentor, my coach asked me on a weekly basis. Would you be best friends, or would you be friends with someone who spoke to you the way you speak to yourself? Would you be friends with someone who spoke to you the way you speak to yourself? And so that's helped me transform the way I speak to myself, especially in sales, right? Because I think, man, they didn't go with me. They went with someone else. You're a loser. You're dumb. You aren't skilled. And then I'm sitting here like, man, would I be friends with someone who spoke to me this way? And the answer then was no. But then we have to start making decisions. Are we capable of being the best? Absolutely. And so I started coining a phrase, and you all have probably heard it before, that says, I'm easy to find if you're looking for the best. I'm not saying that to be arrogant. I'm not even saying that out loud for anyone else. I'm saying that out loud so I can hear myself speak positively to myself. So I just want to encourage you to speak positively to yourself. Make sure that we're focusing on those key skills. Get better at being a one-to-many communicator. Stop telling yourself the lie that you're not good at public speaking, because anytime we walk outside of our doors, that's what's called going out in public. And if you open your mouth outside of your house, you are skilled at public speaking. So let's be cautious. Let's be careful about the stories or the lies that we tell ourselves in sales. And then make a decision today to be the absolute best at what you do. And I believe that once you decide to be the best at what you do, then we can start better handling objections. Once we've made the decision to be in the top 10 of sales, then we start looking at our processes, our after the close or during the transaction process, to see if we're delivering exceptional customer service. Now, if you never decide to be the best, if I never say that I want to be the best at what I do, where I do it, I'm okay giving lackluster customer service. I'm okay if someone gives me an objection and I say, I don't know, and I leave it there. However, if I've decided to be the best, if I've made that decision to be in the top 10, the top 5. Now, and so just the idea, here's what I want. I don't know if you all are familiar with the NAREP 10, right? The National Association for Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. They have 10 values. One of their 10 values for their members is to be in the top 10% of all real estate sales professionals in their marketplaces, right? And so that's one of the things. So they're always looking at the NAREP 10, and that's one of them. And so when we see the NAREP 250 and we start seeing the top 250 Hispanic real estate professionals in Florida or the country, and then we start saying, it's intentional. They've built it in. They're telling themselves every day, I am going to be in the top 10%. Have you ever told yourself that? Have you ever said, I have what it takes, that I can be, and then going in and learning the skills so that you can actually turn that idea, that manifestation, into something real? Any questions, comments, or concerns there before we jump into this other stuff? Now, this stuff right here, I'm not going to beat us up over what I'm about to show us because this is not the fun stuff, but it's the necessary stuff. This is not sexy, but it is going to lead to success. So anyone have anything they want to add, any questions, comments, or concerns right now, go ahead. You've got the floor. Unmute yourself and share. Going once, going twice. All right, so we're going to continue then, and I'm going to share with you all via email for those of you who are here because of the lovely Marcus Scott. You're going to get this from him later this morning. Working with clients, dialogues. Remember, I told us last week that we cannot practice when money is on the line. We cannot practice when the lights are on. So here we go, working with clients, dialogues. Do you even have dialogues that you can refer back to, that you know are in your toolbox when you need them? So this handout from Buffini and Company is fantastic. It's going to, and I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're not going to go through every one of these. We're not even going to touch on hardly any of them. I'm going to show you how to best utilize this once you receive this document. So you're going to see working with buyers or sellers. Do you know the basic conversations, the basic interactions that you're going to have with people? Have you practiced your dialogues on the phone and via video? Like this right here. If I say one thing, you know what? I really think that this is a great time to buy. I think that you would be making a fantastic investment decision, right? Now, if I'm saying one thing and if I'm showing something else, what are you going to believe? You're going to believe what I show you. Have you practiced your dialogues, not only the words, but the energy in which you communicate them with? So it's easy to tell that I believe what I'm saying, right? How? Because I feel it. I'm energetic. Now, if I said, I really believe, you all remember the Pinocchio commercial where he's talking, he's a motivational speaker, and he says, every one of you, when I look in this room, I see a room full of winners, and his nose starts to grow, right? And so that's what this is. If you believe, if you practice your communication skills, if you're confident, right? Remember, I talked about in the one-to-many scenario, maybe it's going to be one-to-one on the phone, maybe it's going to be via video at a networking event. But if you're confident because you know your toolbox is full of these dialogues, guess what we know? You're more likely to sound compelling. You're more likely to be convincing because of the energy that you're going to share. So as we go through here, these gives us how to use this resource and then some tips for getting the most out of dialogues. Practice, write them down, keep them handy. Practice, write them down, keep them handy. Neil, that sounds like too much work. Not for the top 10% of salespeople, it doesn't. Practice, 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 and then practice some more. Write them down, keep them handy on your phones. Make this, put this in your Google Drive so that when you're doing nothing, maybe a client has canceled on you and you still showed up for the meeting and you're going to be looking at this on your phone in Google Drive, or you're going to be looking at this document somewhere that you've just taken some excerpts from and like, well, hey, let me practice. Find a dialogue, a script partner for you to practice with. And then I'm going to encourage you, record yourself on video. And so I just learned this a couple of days ago. Here's what we're going to do. Well, actually, let me, before we go any further, let me stop the share because this is what one of my coaches asked me to do. He wanted me to record myself doing a buyer or marketing consultation, do the consultation, and we're going to watch it 3 times. Well, we're going to watch it twice, and then we're going to do one more thing. First, we're going to watch it with only listening to the sound. So we're going to, on my phone, I recorded the video. I'm going to play it. I'm going to put my phone face down, and I'm going to listen to the words to see if I can be clearly understood, to see if when I'm talking about the market, do I sound convincing and knowledgeable? Am I clear and concise in my conversation? That's going to be the first time that we listen to it. The second time we're going to listen to it, we're not going to listen. We're going to watch the video, but we're going to turn the sound all the way down. All we're going to do is read body language. Is what I'm seeing something that I like or not? That's number one. We're going to listen only. Second, we're going to watch only. The third thing that we're going to do, we're going to have our video transcribed. And here's how I would encourage you to transcribe the video. I'm not asking you to do anything fancy, none of that. It's as simple as upload the video to YouTube. You're going to take that CC option, and then you want to just extract the closed captions from there and just put it on a Word document. Put it on a Word document, and all you're going to do, you're going to highlight all of the ums, uhs, because you want to see where are you losing clarity. Now we've listened, okay? We've seen, and now we've read. And we're like, oh, is that what Google thinks I said? That's not what I said. Okay. Because when we hear ourselves, we already give ourselves a break. Well, I know what I meant. When we watch ourselves, we're going to be thinking about what we said, and we'll say, yeah, I see. We're going to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. This thing right here is not going to lie to us. Once we have it transcribed and we sit down and say, oh, it thinks I said Farfignugan when I said far from Newton, right? Any of those things, once we have it transcribed, is going to be a tremendous help. So those are just some tips as we get ready to use these client dialogues, because what I want to do, I want to make sure that we are prepared when money is on the line. I don't want us fumbling through our toolbox. I don't want us going back, looking and saying, well, I heard that somewhere, how am I supposed to respond? Once we know, if we're working with buyers, do we know what our first interaction dialogue is going to be? In this handout that you're going to receive via email, the most important part, the dialogues are important. The most important part are going to be these tips. Know the tips, because this is our roadmap. These are those warning labels. Hey, beware, caution, wet floor, follow this. For instance, preempt your potential buyer of the roadmap of the meeting and different touch points you will go through briefly. Also include how long the meeting will run so they can plan their day in advance. Now, do we do that for the initial interaction, for that first interaction dialogue, or do we say, is now a good time to talk? Well, I don't know. How long is this going to take, right? And so this is the dialogue here. It talks about having them come into the office for an appointment. Now, this is where this is a little antiquated. Now people aren't going into the office. We do encourage you to meet in a public place, maybe in somewhere like a title company lender. We're finding now social places gets people, lets them drop their guard just a little bit. So Panera Bread is a fantastic place. We're talking about Starbucks, Dunkin', depending on the type of client, customer that you're looking to work with. Some other client tips: pre-qualify them with your endorsed lender before they meet with you. Now, I know we know this. I'm not instructing you. I am reminding you. And it says you want to be able to tell them the truth about what they can afford. And we can only do that once we have that pre-approval letter. Now, here's one. Let me see where it is. I want to educate them about the market. Educate them, but we want to educate them about the home buying process after they're pre-qualified. We want to take our buyers on a step-by-step. We want to know the route, the journey that we're going to take them on. However, we're going to give it to them bits and pieces. The perfect example would be, how many of us have ever gone on some type of tour? Now, the tour guide knows exactly what they're going to say, when they're going to say it. They've probably done it hundreds, if not thousands of times. It's your first time hearing it. Now, you're going to think to yourself, well, Neil, doesn't it sound like a script if I'm just telling them back, if I'm reading this to them? It's a great time to buy, and there are lots of choices. Prices have softened. Well, first of all, no, this is not the script that you would use in this marketplace, okay? Is it a great time to buy? It depends. Do you know what their circumstances or situations are? But just like that tour guide, you may have done it hundreds or thousands of times. But if I'm the one going through this experience for the first or even the second time, I want to know that the person who is leading me is prepared. What I don't want is for you to have the same map that I have, and I pull up to a house. We're on a tour of Hollywood right now. And this house right here, the pink one, is that Matthew McConaughey's house? I think that is. I think that is Matthew McConaughey's house. Yep. Oh no, his is the blue one. Oh, so do you know who's the pink one is? And that's what we find ourselves doing in this marketplace. We are not prepared. So how many times, don't raise your hand, are your clients, the prospects, the customers. You're trying to walk them through, and they're saying, well, that's not right. I heard this, this, and this. And instead of you knowing your stuff, instead of you knowing the dialogue, handling the objection, you're saying, is it? You might be right. If that's the case, could it be that we haven't practiced, that we haven't written down, that we aren't keeping this stuff handy? The home buying process. Can you effectively communicate? Do you have a dialogue? Do you know your scripts? Can you communicate with your buyer what to expect during this process, step by step? Now, do we have a big picture? Can we let them know? I use the roller coaster example. Hey, this home buying process is going to be like a roller coaster. You're going to get on, you're going to be excited in line. Once that latch goes down, all of a sudden, a little bit of panic sets in. And you start thinking, honey, do we really want to do this? I don't know. We said we were going to. Let's do it. All right. I tell them, your job is to enjoy the highs. Let me handle the lows. You enjoy the loop-de-loops. Just know that I'm your safety bar. I'm going to keep you secured in your seat. And while this might be an emotional experience, at the end, you're going to high-five each other and be glad that you rode the ride. And it's my goal that you go and tell others the experience that you had. So if they need to buy or sell, they're going to want to do it only with me, because hopefully you agree that I am the best at what I do where I do it. Now, all of that is a script. It's a dialogue. I've practiced it hundreds and thousands of times talking about the roller coaster, and that's why it can flow. Have you practiced? Do you know? Dialogue. Buyers on the fence right now. We have a lot of buyers on the fence. Not sure it's a good time to buy. We're hearing this one. And here's what I want to remind you all. This is not brand new stuff. There are only really about 9 or 10 different scenarios at the foundational level in real estate. 9 or 10 different scenarios, and they're all covered here. Do you think buyers right now, look at dialogue too. Do you think buyers are worried about paying too much? For move-up buyers, address their fears with the following. Okay, and then we can get down, talk about open houses. Same thing when we come on down to working with sellers. If there's no activity, price reduction, maybe it's going to be a price adjustment or repositioning on the market to get the price a little higher in this marketplace. Let's go down. Frustrated seller. Maybe you have a frustrated seller. And then the main thing I want us to look at is going to be these tips. Some key points to share with your client about short sales. If they were doing a short sale, is there. Let's keep going down. Low inventory dialogue. Oh, by the way, if you know someone buying or selling a home, especially someone interested in selling at this time, give me a call with a name and number or text me their info, and I'll be sure to follow up and take great care of them. So for me, my closing dialogue for low inventory is, as you probably know, we're having some challenges with inventory. I'm looking for sellers who are interested in taking advantage of this market. If you know someone interested in selling their home, please give their contact info to me. I'll take it from there. It's that easy. Every time. Consistency. Do you know what you're looking for? Can you effectively communicate to those that are in your database that you're working with in your sphere of influence? Do they know what you want? For that to happen, you have to know what you want, and then you have to effectively communicate. Maybe right now, for instance, I'm telling you all this. I am not looking for buyers right now in this market. Now, buyers are coming to me. I'm not looking for buyers. I'm looking for sellers. My database, everyone that I have a conversation with, they know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for sellers of single-family homes in a specific east to west stretch. Why do they know that? Because I'm communicating with them. Hey, oh, by the way, if you know someone that's interested in selling in this inventory, this low inventory market, please give me their info, especially those for single-family homes in the boom corridor, because I have buyers for them. Give me their contact info. I'll take it from there. It's that easy. People want to do what's easy and beneficial. So you can see this information came from 2018. It's 2022. Not much has changed in the need of having effective dialogue. Something that has not changed, something that will never change, is the need for practice. How much are you practicing your sales skills? How much are you practicing your dialogues, the scripts? Now, we think they're canned. We don't like it, but your experience with a professional is always improved when they're prepared. Are you a prepared professional? If I ask you, why would I use you to help me buy or sell? Do you know what your answer is every time? If 10 people ask you the same question, can you listen to their needs, listen to the question, and are your words going to match your physical appearance? Is it going to match your body language? Is there going to be a disconnect? Are you going to be having all types of spaces in there? Or are you going to try to figure out which one is Matthew McConaughey's house, right? And then if someone says, well, Zillow said, my uncle said, you know what, I read, I saw, I know, I went there, I built the house. Are you going to say you're right? Or are you going to have, well, that might be the case. However, my research shows, right, those types of things. So we just want to make sure that we're filling our toolbox consistently, that we're always keeping our information readily available, that when we don't have anything to do, we always have something to do. We always have to increase. We have to sharpen our tools, always like sharpening that axe, so that when we have to use it, the cutting of the tree takes a fraction of the time. So that's what I wanted to share with you all. I hope you all found that beneficial and useful, but more importantly, I hope you take something away that you can implement into your business today. Maybe you need to implement asking yourself, like, would I be friends with someone who spoke to me the way I speak to myself? Maybe that's where it starts. Maybe it's making the decision to actually decide, I'm going to be in the top 10%. And if you decide that you're going to be in the top 10%, go into your MLS or talk to your broker. You can get the numbers to see what are the top 10% in either sales volume or number of transactions. I believe in sales volume, right? Get in the top 10%. Know that number. I know what the price range for sales volume being the top 10% of the marketplace is. And here's what I'm going to tell you all. It's not as high as you think it is. In your marketplace, getting the top 10% is not going to be as high as you likely think it is. It's not going to require you to sell $400 million. It's not going to require you to sell $100 million in real estate, because that top 10%, the amount of business, the amount of individuals doing that is going to be relatively few. So just keep that in mind and then make the decision. And then once you've made the decision, everything else is going to filter from that one key decision, that you do want to be the best, that you want to build something worth using, worth leaving behind, and worth talking about. So that's what I want to share. Anyone have anything that they want to ask or add before the end